We are here with our special guest of this evening, and that is Michael Golpe. We're talking about, will Ripple XRP absorb other ISO coins? That sounds kind of crazy because let's face it, there's a lot of other ISO compliant coins and tokens. But before we get into this,
Decent wallet. Just a few taps, you can manage, track, and secure your crypto with unmatched ease. And here's the best part. Grab your Decent wallet at a discounted price by using the referral link below. Don't miss out on making your crypto experience smoother and more secure.
Michael, you mentioned to me earlier backstage that you yourself, this isn't your first rodeo. You've actually been into crypto since 2017. So share that with our audience, please.
Excellent, sir. Yes. I got into crypto in 2017 when a boss of mine, Jason, suggested that I research into Bitcoin. And I was like, well, okay, I need something to occupy my time. I was going through some difficulties at the time, and I just really wanted something to concentrate on. Now, initially, I did hear about Bitcoin through the grapevine in, believe it or not, November of 2008. A coworker of mine said, hey, I saw something on a forum. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He took me out to lunch. And this is before it was even mine. He mentioned something, he saw something, and this was November into December time. I was working retail, I was doing sales, trying to, work my degree into a good position. My degree's in economics. And I tried to get into Bitcoin. I couldn't understand it. I couldn't wrap my head around it. Then Jason in 2017 says, look into Bitcoin. I was like, okay. So I look into Bitcoin and I'm like, wait a minute, this is actually an option. This is an alternative. I have to look into this a little bit more. And then from there, I learned some about Litecoin, some about Monero. And then eventually I started to study Ethereum, and I tried to become an Ethereum developer. But honestly, I'm pretty good, but I'm not that good. So I pretty much just walked away from that. Kind of regret it. I might do it again another day, see if I can. But my focus is on uh, more of the finance option. It might be my economic background. I mean, on the side, what I do is I do a lot of tech work, built my own systems, and so I have fun with it. But yeah, I'm just not really much of a developer. But yeah, it's not my first rodeo. 2017, I got into this. I wrote it up. I started to really understand how things flowed with it, started to get into some other coins. And honestly, I haven't looked back since. Been staying into it. One of my biggest concerns is that we are going to end up in a situation, and this is the main point I really want to get to. They don't want us to hold it. That means we should hold it. And if that's true, we're at this weird spot here where a lot of us do hold it, but not quite enough. But on balance, because not quite enough people hold the ISO coins, people think, oh, nothing's going to happen with it. If we had more people actually buying, holding, and hodling the ISO coins, I really think things would improve exponentially because people are going to actually see, hey, people are holding on to this. People are not day trading this. They're actually waiting for staking, with XRP at least. Even though we have the AMM, you get into, who really wants to pair their XRP with a stable coin, knowing that impermanent risk and everything else is going to come in and you'll probably lessen your value, and you rather just stake and get a small return on it. Now we do have that with HBAR, for example, but when people actually see, hey, people are holding, people are staking the ISO coins, maybe there's something to this, then more people will come into it. But I think we're at a weird spot where, oh, yeah, it's great. A lot of people are buying it, and supposedly the XLM coins have increased their wallets exponentially. But we're at a point where just not enough people are holding it for it to explode. So we're at a very odd spot. So one of the things I try to encourage people to do on my channel is to buy and hold. Well, first, you got to understand what you're buying. Don't overbuy is the other thing I try to stress constantly. Understand, have the gist of it, to the potential of these coins, what they can do. Be excited about it. I'm starting to get excited talking about it. But understand, like, for example, XRP is for the institutions, and we beat the institutions. That gets me so happy because, again, oligarchy, people, the big bosses who run things, not letting you advance, convincing you it's your own fault, even though you work harder than they do. You got the grind down. You're really pushing it out, but you're still not getting anywhere. Well, that's because they control the money. And if we, as XRP holders, for example, allow these institutions to be the only holders, if we if we get a little crazy trusting third parties with custody, if we don't custody our own stuff, uh, and I learned that from the Monero community, especially. Shout out to them. But we have to learn to have our own custody. And that leads me into thinking, can we really be our own bank, though? To an extent, we can. But if, some of us are going to need custodial uh, organizations, whoever they may be, because not everyone has got the stomach for this stuff. They'll understand it to a point, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not being judgmental here, but some people just can only go so far with this, and that's cool. I'm just glad you're hodling. I'm glad you bought some, but we have to really give it our all and see what we can do and understand it so we can keep our assets under our control, really understand what we're doing. And I try to stress that on my channel. Really know what you're doing. Don't just grab any hardware wallet willy-nilly because you heard it was a good thing. It is a good thing to have your own hardware wallet, but you have to know what you're buying. You have to understand your threat model, because you're actually going to be wealthy, in my humble opinion. You're going to be rich. That's just my opinion. It's not absolute. But I think anyone into ISO is going to be, let's just say, a lot better off than they were. And you have to admit, that's going to make you a target. So you have to learn what to do. You have to understand what your threat model is. You have to understand what these coins can do, how they interact with other entities who do hold more coins than you and me and a lot of others. But bear in mind, we have beaten the institutions here. So institutions, Wall Street, what have you, they're going to do what they're going to do. This is how they roll. They, they, they've been doing this for centuries, cornering markets, manipulating markets. So hodl and just try to explain crypto to your friends. Eventually, very soon, in my opinion, they're going to be utilizing what they think is a US dollar, and it's going to be running on XRP. And, that I am mainly focusing on XRP here. I mean, we could, well, especially you, Max, you can really school me on QNT, probably XLM and XDC as well. But for the audience, really get out there, try to understand what these things do, try to understand how they'll work in the background and you won't see it. But also, try to get a friend or two involved. I know how difficult it can be. I've tried with like 20 friends. I only got like 3 or 4 into it, but I love it. I eat this stuff. I never thought that I would be like doing a channel, having an interview with someone like Max. I mean, this is just mind-boggling to me.
One of the things that was mentioned in regard to this was to actually look more further into it with the research. So will some of these other ones be absorbed? Or people ask, will you be able to be your own bank, or we need a third party? Well, the thing I want to jump into is this right here. And this is, again, shout to Rohitku. He has this video that mentions how settlement is enabled through CGI and Volante partnerships, how XRP can be used in third-party relationships without SWIFT relationships. This is about 2 minutes and 5 seconds. We'll show how this is done, and then we'll come right back here shortly.
In this example, two banks use a correspondent bank to route their payments. Xcurrent includes Messenger, which is used to coordinate information exchange between the banks. And the ILP ledger uses the Interledger Protocol to coordinate funds movement between institutions to settle the payment. Xcurrent ingests existing message formats like SWIFT-FIN or ISO 20022 through a translation layer, such as CGI's Intelligent Gateway or Volante's Volpay. Let's follow one payment through the entire payment flow. First, the translation layer parses the message and collects necessary information to initiate the payment. Here you see that Alice in the US wants to send money to Bob in Germany. She wants Bob to receive 500 euros. Messenger communicates with the correspondent and beneficiary banks to obtain their payment processing fees and total cost. Next, pre-transaction validation takes place. This includes compliance screening and account verification checks. Since all banks have the necessary facts, they can pre-validate the payment even before funds move to ensure high straight-through processing rates. Now it's time to coordinate funds flow across the private ILP ledgers of these three different institutions. In this example, the originating bank has a Nostro account with the correspondent bank, and the beneficiary bank is using a third-party liquidity provider to connect in with the correspondent bank. To begin the settlement process, Ripple coordinates a hold on the funds across all three ledgers. The ILP ledgers generate cryptographic signatures to verify that the funds are committed to the transaction. Then, the funds are simultaneously released across the three ledgers. This process ensures no settlement risk. The payment either executes or fails. Upon completion, Ripple provides a confirmation message to all counterparties. The entire payment process across multiple banks takes seconds and provides end-to-end visibility into the transaction while increasing processing rates and lowering operational costs.
You see here, top left, SWIFT GPI real-time payment message sent to receiving bank via standard SWIFT MT type messaging. It says RippleNet receives same MT type messaging via API, bridge setup by SAP, Temenos, etc. This happens independent of SWIFT. Now, something I want to talk about, and if anything, I'll include Michael on this as well. So I see some of you guys' comments. Some of your comments is, yeah, that's Ripple, Max. It's not going to be XRP. I'll re-advise you of the research that Rue and I did. Because in the visuals, when it comes to Temenos, it specifically shows you in that visual, plain as day, Ripple XRP. It shows it in the transactions. There's no denying that.
Connecting to the T24, then the BlueZelle technology is tapping into the T24, which will talk to the Ripple network, which is a Ripple protocol blockchain, and send money overseas. So let's do a demo. Here I am, Coast Capital Bank, and I'm the teller. John comes to me and says, hey, I want to send some money. Let's see, need some Canadian. I put in the account number for Coast Capital. There we go. And put in CAD account. We're going to send it to our European partner. Let's just say it's Nordea. Credit account EUR. And I'm going to pick a random dollar figure of 78 euros that he needs. So just like this is what the teller sees through T24. Let's look at the deal. Everything's there. I got the rate that came up. Now, the rate that comes up is what the Ripple protocol will come back with from the market makers. It's an efficient path-finding algorithm. I validate the deal, and now you saw the transaction happen, complete. So this is what's happened on the bank side right now. So let's recap. BlueZelle, the T24 stack at Coast Capital, talked to BlueZelle, went to the Ripple protocol, the blockchain, found an efficient rate of going from Canadian dollars to euro, and said, okay, let's finish that transaction. So all the messaging is done behind the scenes in real time, and then the transaction will happen over the blockchain. So here we go. I'm going now. Here's the actual blockchain ledger for Coast Capital. And there you see right there, 78 euros got instantly transacted. Where before took 2 weeks, took seconds. Here's all the authentication that you see behind it, the encryption, the hash key, the ledger, all these nerd words that you see or have heard about, that's where it is. Now, I took that private hash, I'm taking it to the transaction page. On the left, you're going to see real live transactions happening over the blockchain right now being settled. I enter our hash key, which once again is private to Coast Capital. And here you see all the information that was related with that transaction. You saw 6 nodes, 6 ledgers automatically get updated at the same time. So once again, a transaction that took 2 weeks or 3 days even took seconds.
So to me, Michael, this is there. It's big time there. And again, like it says, no partnership between SWIFT and Ripple required. But if anything, when we looked at the orchestration of how this all works, it seems plain as day that back to what you were originally talking about, XRP is there. Your thoughts?
XRP is there, and it kind of makes me wonder, will Codius actually happen? This pet project of David Schwartz, will Codius lead to the absorption, and I say absorb with air quotes, of at least the use cases and functions of these other ISO coins? And sometimes I wonder, should we even be concerned? Is it that the better coin won? But that leads me to my concerns about, we'll say, a big boss, about oligarchy, about, for example, the technocrats. There's just, it could go, there's just so many ways it could go. It could go in a really good way, but we got to be careful that it doesn't go down a bad road. And that is a big concern of mine. Maybe it's from watching too much science fiction as a teenager, all the different movies, whether it's, pick your favorite one from the writer Philip K. Dick, there are just so many bad things that could happen.
Michael mentioned earlier this whole thing of that absorption. But of course, the other thing he was asking was, well, let's think about it, the quote unquote be your own bank. And I think, we'll talk about that in another outline, which be out on the lookout for that. But basically speaking, it's like, will we need third parties such as Nexo or Equify, regardless of the situation? To me, back to Rohiku with what we just shared with you guys, I think that answers the question. And if anything, I will pull that up on the screen for you guys to see what I'm talking about. Again, shout out to Rohiku, ISO 222. Let's do it. Always support some of these brothers in the space to do the real solid research and bring it to you. Volante Technologies, one of the most respected global provider of payment solutions, is settling transfer using XRP through a link with Ripple. Okay, so check mark. We get further down into this, even though this part isn't fully highlighted, I do want to read this. The tech firm made the disclosure on X after the inquisitive XRP users sought to know whether XRP will be made possible as a settlement mechanism for First American Trust, FSB, which just selected at that time Volante Technologies, US Fedwire as a service in the cloud. Volante responded that customers can make use of XRP. I'll state it again. Make use of XRP on its platform since it is connected to Ripple. When did this all first happen? Back in 2015. Well, price don't move much. The rails were laid. What do we need to have going forward from here, everybody? The answer is this simple, everybody. Regulations have to happen. And once that does happen, we're off to the races. That is the way I personally feel about it. And if anything, you, sir, Mr. Michael Golpe, what are your closing thoughts in that regard?
Yeah, we got to flip it back on them. We got to stick it to the man, or else the man's going to stick it to us. That was where I was coming from. But you know what? We are not holding the other types of cryptos. So I still got that little bit of sticking to the man, in me. But what we are invested in, what we're talking about here, are the ISO coins designed to be utilized more so by institutions, whether they're big banks, the global financial system, large corporations, uh, and then as well individuals, more so like you have the picture with XLM for the everyday person utilizing it to buy bread and milk, which is cool. But who's using it on the other end? Well, the regional supermarkets. So this is about day to day life, what we use every day that we don't see, our banks, our credit card processing, and everything else. And so, well, I still got a little bit of that sticking it to the man mentality in my head. I still love Monero, for example. We got to bear in mind, know what you hold, and what we hold in the ISO coins is for everyday life.
Well said, Michael. So what I was going to state is, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I want to give Michael a plug to his channel. Here is his channel. And basically, if you appreciate him and his platform, go over to his channel. And of course, if you're watching this from his channel, you already know about his channel. But over on my side, I want to introduce, of course, his channel. Here he is, Michael Golpe. You can find him literally at how he spells it. So at Michael Golpe, one word. And yeah, at Michael Golpe on YouTube. And look at this guy. How could you not want to follow this guy? He's so into it. He's enthusiastic, gives great perspectives. Dresses pretty sharp, by the way. And very, very interesting to ride along with this guy on his journey, and him providing his perspectives on the ISOs and a lot of these things that have to do with real utility. Also, he has an X. Let's take you over to his X, and here you see it. He can be followed, again, same thing as YouTube, at Michael Golpe. So check him out. Follow those that are part of this space. So with that said, do us both a favor if you listen to the entire outline and simply type this into the comments, and that is absorb. And we'll know that you listen to the entire outline. On behalf of myself and Michael, the saying goes, know what you have, know why you hold it. The research trumps FUD. 110%. We will see you on the next one.